Hello everybody, welcome to the Lightfire Room. I'm here with my first guest, a very special guest and a good friend of mine, Mark the Harp LeClaire, and we're going to talk for a little bit. Mark, how you doing?
Oh, we're good, Cody, man. It's a pleasure to be here, my friend.
It's always great to see you, of course.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about, your whole career in music, basically. I want to go back to the very beginning and kind of bring us up to speed, tell people who you are, what you do. What were your earliest influences in music, going way back?
Going way back, I guess my dad, he was a guitar player. And he played a lot of old different venues, most of bars.
Yeah.
Played a lot of Roy Clark and Johnny Cash and just that country thing. So I was always, around 6 years old, I was always picking up, his guitar when he's at work. And
okay.
kind of fiddling around with it, trying to do what he was doing.
So you got to go see his gigs then, or how's that work?
No,
with the bar scene?
he was mostly, when he practiced at home and stuff, I'd hang out and
very cool.
Listen to him over and over and over, and I'd try to do what he was doing later on.
So you were pretty much picking there at the very beginning, or at least kind of trying
yeah.
to.
Yeah, sure was.
That's really cool. What were some of the first people you listened to on the radio? Famous acts?
Oh, heck, I'd have to say, probably the Beatles was a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
Rolling Stones.
Oh, yeah, the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. You don't pick sides on that?
No, I just loved it all. I tried to pick out some of that stuff. And started playing harmonica back then, too, My dad got my sister a harmonica, and I didn't get one. I got something else instead, but boy, she laid that thing down, and I was all over that too. So
Yeah.
It's very competitive. Wanted to started playing pretty early age in the harp too.
That's very cool. Now it's part of your name, Mark the Harp.
Yeah, I got that from a buddy in Wichita.
Yeah.
It was just a kind of a joke, but it kind of stuck.
Oh, yeah. I think from the very first time I met you, you were Mark the Harp LeClaire, and
Right.
it was never a question. It was just, that's what made sense.
Yeah, I love playing, I love performing, and I guess harmonica was my ticket to get on stage. So
Okay, speaking of which, what was the first time you got to play on stage?
I played with a bunch of guys and gals, Greg Edick, Vicky Michaels, Ron Bielinger, and Chad Smith, bunch of guys, always down 1860s, got to sit in. Jimmy Lee Kennett was a big deal to me, of course. George Patazos, a lot of the St. Louis gang was a big deal for me. So, yeah, I got to meet a lot of different cool people. Boo Boo Davis, what a legend, from the east side there. So, yeah, I had a lot of good examples of what to aspire to,
Yeah, St. Louis now, we've got the National Blues Museum.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's a big deal
Yeah,
here.
I got a couple cigar box guitars in the museum right now on display, too. So
Yeah,
I'm
we're
real proud of
going
that.
to talk about the cigar box
Cool,
guitars
cool.
here in a little bit. I know you build your own guitars, and that's
yeah.
definitely a big part of who you are. About how old were you when you played your first show on stage?
Oh, I guess I kind of quit smoking and got into the music thing. So I guess I was about, I don't say 50. I really didn't get out and play anywhere. I was about 50 years old, so.
That's really interesting.
A couple of years older now.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's been fun.
So your first groups that you got to play with, I know you were talking about different people earlier. Who's some of the first local people that you got to play with?
Well, my first band I was really in was Victims of Circumstances with Denny Renner and Daryl Montgomery and Mike Kohler. And man, we had a ball doing that. I played Jimmy Strickland, had Smokestack Lightning, Chris Noblin, and yeah, it was just a blast. A lot of rock and blues, some classic rock. Just did a lot of different music, and very cool.
So did the blues come to your life later on, or does that go way back? I know we talked before the camera got rolling about how it was kind of difficult to find the blues.
Right. My grandpa, he always whistled the blues. He was a carpenter, and yeah, just being around him while he was working on stuff, and he whistled a St. Louis blues song all the time, and I just loved that sound. I guess that chord progression. I always like, where does all that come from? I mean, early on, I'm talking, when I was 6, 7 years old. I mean, I always loved that sound, that the blues sound, and I guess I've always gravitated towards that. And then with my wife, she begged me to get an Android, and that got me on the internet, and I really got an education here about, I guess 10, 12 years ago, about who really did what and where it came from. And since then I've made trips down to Clarksdale, Mississippi, and been to Memphis. I mean, now I feel it. I know where it comes from and who did what.
Yeah.
I just love the history of it.
I imagine you can kind of feel that stuff like emanating from the ground. I know we got to go to Memphis and even in Nashville, and you can just feel the music that's taking place there.
I just love
It's really interesting.
Love that area, and yeah, I always want to go back there and visit.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody treats me like $1 million down there.
Yeah,
it's a ball.
Can't get enough of it. Let's talk about building guitars just a little bit.
Sure.
Cigar box guitars. How did that get introduced to your life?
I got to sit in with a band, and a guy named Gabriel Strange, he's a drummer, real good drummer. Played with Devin Allman, and he told me, hey, follow us, we're going to be playing at the Honey Tribe, and check out our website, and I did. And there was a cigar box guitar that Devin played, and I remembered, wow, I built one of them when I was a little kid, about 9 years old.
No kidding?
One of the Cub Scouts. So I was like, man, I want to do that again. That's really cool. I love the sound of it. So I went on the hunt for guitar parts, because I didn't know how to make a neck or nothing. So I basically glued a repurposed neck onto a box and tuned it up. I was real proud of it. Leaned it up against the counter. It fell over. The neck busted off of it. So then, now that I got this, internet thing going on, I got on there and I Googled cigar box guitars, and it's a whole counterculture of people building their own instruments and companies that sell parts and everything else. And, then, I found out about festivals, and hey, it was on. I was hooked.
I know it's been really interesting since you introduced me to it. Like you said, it's a counterculture. There's a real sense of community around these people that all take part in the building of the guitars and the playing them, and it's very interesting.
And the people, they share the knowledge, the wealth of knowledge. You got Shane Spiel, you got Mark Piper, you got Justin Johnson. That's just a couple of guys. C6 Steve has got some videos out there of him playing, and One String Diddley Bows. It just goes on. And if you're really wanting to learn cigar box guitars, there's hundreds of tutorials on YouTube. So
Absolutely.
That's what I do too. If I want to know a song, I just Google it and learn different material, different styles.
For sure. Yeah, you can just about learn to do anything you want to with YouTube and the internet. I want to talk to you about Michael Breedlove a little bit.
Sure.
You want to tell me about his website and how you got involved with him? Because I know he's been a supporter of you, and you've been a supporter of him for a while.
Yeah, Michael Breedlove's a real cool cat. He's from Odessa, Florida down there. He endorses me with guitar parts and my builds and stuff, and I use a lot of his parts on my builds. He's got excellent electronics. I met him at I think it was the third annual Cigar Box Guitar Festival in St. Louis. I think it's been about 3 years ago. And yeah, I was like, oh, where's Mr. Breedlove? I was thinking of the acoustic Breedlove guitars, and he goes, well, I'm Michael Breedlove. I said, well, show me what you got, son. I was just clowning around with him. And I started looking at some of his builds and stuff, and I said, well, let me play it. So I played it, and he got a kick out of a little ad-lib song I did, and before you knew it, he won my address, and 2 weeks later, he hooked me up with one of his builds, and I'll play it in my shows. I have a ball with it. Oh, yeah. So yeah, I got a lot, real grateful for that company. And
it's mgbguitars.com, I think.
Yeah, check out their parts. You want to build one of these things. I mean, that's sky's the limit.
Oh, yeah, show it off a little bit.
Yeah, Yost and Sons built this guitar. I wanted the license plate so bad because it said CBG for Cigar Box Guitars. But this little pickup, I added that from Michael Breedlove's MGB parts. But I mean, their stuff cooks, man. It just great price, free delivery.
Yeah, we're gonna have Mark play you a song here in just a little bit after we get done talking. So definitely stay tuned for that. How long have you been building your own guitars?
I guess about 8 years, about 7 or 8 years.
7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
And how many guitars have you built yourself?
Oh, I kind of lost count. I believe about 43 or 44 of them. About 43, I think, right now. I've got several in different stages.
Yeah, all in progress?
Yeah, and just like my first guitar, like I said, I bought repurposing parts from a guy. His name was Gary Sutter. God rest his soul, he's no longer with us. But yeah, I bought 4 junk guitars from him. And like I said, that first one I made, I just tore it apart, put it back together yesterday for about the 10th time. The first one is the hardest. I just never did get it right. Now it's right. I'm going to be playing it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Look forward to hearing that at the shows. I'm looking forward to hearing this one at the shows.
Oh, yeah, it's coming up a lot of fun.
I wanted to ask you about recording your debut album, your first CD.
Oh, yeah.
And just a little bit about what that meant to you and the songs that you chose for it. And just kind of advertise that it's out there a little bit.
Yeah, I got my first CD. I always wanted to do a CD or an album. It was just a dream, and and I wanted it raw and kind of uncut. But no, Cody, thank you for.
Oh, you don't have to put me over.
But I mean, it turned out good. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. I think my part of it, I did about 5 hours in the studio, and I was done with it. And I was real proud of it.
It's very cool. The way you came in and you laid it down like a live performance, and I feel like you could really feel it.
I had a good time with that. Now trying to duplicate that ain't never happened again yet. But.
Well, the live experience is always different. Yeah. That's something that's very interesting. The live energies, that changes all the time. And I think spontaneity can sometimes lead to better things.
Yeah, that was cool. I was having a good time doing it.
I wanted to talk a little bit more about your later influences. You mentioned like local people from the St. Louis scene, and then you said Boo Boo Davis.
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about guys like him and how they influenced your sound or what you...
Oh, yeah. I was like hanging out with Jimmy Lee Kennett, and seeing that he was doing some open tuning and stuff, and I was like, that guy was such a phenomenal guitar player, man. And artist and singer. I mean, that guy just had all the tricks in his bag, and really aspired to want to, be able to, play live like that. So, yeah, he told me, open tuning's cool, and that's really all I do. And then, Greg Edick, always got, sitting with his bands and stuff. So I've been, Vicky Michaels, all them people down in St. Louis was a big influence. So I don't get down the city as much as I wanted to, but it sure was a lot of good memories down down around the Soulard area. So I had a good time down there.
Now I know you drive a truck.
Oh yeah.
And I wanted to ask you how that maybe has influenced your music and how it's influenced the whole thing, really. I imagine it's opened up different connections for you on occasion.
Really, with being in a truck, that's where I listen. I listen to a lot of music, a lot of CDs, up and down the road. But I don't know if that really influences me with what I'm doing.
I guess the reason I ask is it seems like something that would really be entwined with the nature of the blues. Or
yeah.
Maybe I'm just making that connection on my own there.
You're making that connection on your own. I mean, I love listening to blues while I drive, but no, I guess no, that's not really the connection.
Fair enough. No, that's fair enough. Hey, I thought maybe it did, but
no.
I guess because I know you've played in Florida and I know you've played kind of out of state. I didn't know if maybe driving a truck had helped you, accomplish that.
No, I just get down to Florida and just made some musical connections down there, and just with got to play in Nashville once and met Rob Warble, and he built some fine guitars too. So I just get to travel a little bit every once in a while, and when I'm traveling, I like to be able to do some venues if I can.
Yeah.
Travis Boland's a cigar box guitar artist. Got a heck of a band too.
Amazing vocalist too.
Yeah, so I mean, I get to run into some cool cats sometimes.
Very cool. One last big question: what does music mean to Mark the Harp?
Well, for me, I guess it's something that I've got that nobody can ever take away from me. Just something that I don't know, when I get to play live and I see people into it or smiling, I know it's taking them somewhere.
Yeah.
And I guess I go there too, and it's something you feel. It's just a feeling.
Absolutely. Well, Mark, we're going to get things resituated. I'm going to have you play the folks a song, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I sure appreciate you talking.
Yeah,
and
cool, man.
Doing this for us. It means a lot
Thanks,
to me.
Cody, man. It's been a ball, man.
Thanks, man.
With the age of the internet and all that, my biggest blues heroes, just to name a few: B.B. King, Buddy Guy. Yeah, that's the big guys. Oh yeah, I always liked ZZ Top. Muddy Waters. Oh, I always love me some Little Walter. Yeah, Andrew Flowers. He pretty much responsible for knowing about Robert Johnson, believe it or not. I'm living away from hell. I ain't coming back no more. I said I'm going down south, child. I said you wanna go? I said I'm worried. I got trouble in my mind. I said I can't never be satisfied on it. And I just can't keep from crying. You know, I feel I'm snapping. I should have kissed her in her face. You know, I'm gonna let some graveyard know. I should be home resting place. I said I'm troubled. Covering in my mind. I said, you know, can never be satisfied, honey. And I just can't keep from crying. Tell me about it.
Alright everybody, that's our show. I want to thank Mark for being our guest on the Lightfire Room today and remind everybody that his debut CD, They Call Him Mark the Harp, is available now. Check it out. We'll see you next time.